The 2024 NFL Draft was headlined by a superstar at the top of the tight end class in Georgia's Brock Bowers. Everyone viewed him as a generational tight end prospect, but there was a massive gap between Bowers and the number 2 tight end in the class. And that seems to be the same case here in the 2025 class. Michigan's Colston Loveland seems to be at the top of every single tight end ranking you'll find, and it doesn't seem to be particularly close. What makes him such a unique tight end, and where does he ultimately get selected in the 2025 NFL Draft? That is what we will be going over in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, which I will leave linked down in the description below. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft guide, player evaluations, prospect interviews, and much more. If you want to learn more about this draft class and get ahead of the competition, I highly recommend checking it out. Leave a comment and let me know which players you guys want to see in a future prospect spotlight, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Colston Loveland. Loveland has quietly been a massive part of the Michigan offense for the last couple of seasons. In 2023, Loveland finished the year with 45 receptions for 649 yards and 4 touchdowns for the national champions, and he was a really nice receiving threat. This year, Michigan's offense has looked incredibly poor through the first 3 weeks, but Loveland has quietly been a monster for this team. Through 3 games, he has finished with 19 receptions for 187 yards and 1 touchdown, and he's been targeted 24 times. To put that in perspective, he is on pace to have over 100 targets. The only tight end to ever do that in the college football season was Trey McBride for Colorado State back in 2021. Loveland has been super efficient for the Wolverines, and his usage has been incredibly high, and he's a super intriguing prospect. The first thing that really stands out about Loveland is his exceptional athleticism. He's one of the most fluid movers I can recall watching from the tight end position. He has a super quick first step, and he flashes that quickness even more as a route runner, where he can break out of a route super fast. He also is super unique after the catch. He has fantastic speed in the open field, he's got good contact balance, and 93 of his 187 yards this season have been after the catch. He is super dynamic in the open field and an exceptional athlete. Loveland is more of your prototypical receiving tight end, but he does flash some stuff that is very unique, particularly as a route runner. He is so quick in man-to-man coverage, he's so twitchy, and he understands how to separate. He is one of the better separators I have seen from the tight end position, and he breaks routes incredibly well across the middle of the field, but I also think he's really smart, and he knows where to settle in zone coverage. He makes himself readily available for his quarterback, turns around, and he makes some big plays in the middle of the field. Loveland also has fantastic length and size for the tight end position. He is 6'5", 245 pounds, and he has a very large catch radius that makes him a matchup nightmare for defenders to go up against. As a blocker, Loveland is very solid. I think he has his ups and downs, but he certainly isn't a liability in the blocking department. I think he thrives mostly as a chip or pass blocker. He has strong hands and a good base, and he does do a pretty good job of helping protect the quarterback a little bit, which is something that is so important for the tight end to be able to do. As a run blocker, I think he's fine in space, but I think one of my biggest issues with Loveland as a prospect is some of the angles he decides to take. Once again, he's not a bad blocker, but it certainly is not the biggest strength in his game, and I think his run blocking is one of his biggest weaknesses. He's got to take better angles, look a little bit more in control, and be able to make contact with the defenders. The biggest weakness with Loveland is going to be his hands. Loveland is a player who has really struggled with drops throughout his collegiate career, and that is something that needs to get cleaned up immediately. He already has 1 drop in 2024, but his 2023 season was not ideal in the slightest, as he had 5 drops on the season, which is a very high number. That's just not going to fly at the NFL level, and it's something Loveland has got to get cleaned up if he's going to be successful in the league. Colston Loveland is an elite athlete. As the league moves more and more to using a tight end almost as an extra wide receiver, Loveland is a perfect fit for the modern NFL. His length, his speed and athleticism in the open field, his route running are all fantastic. While he's not an amazing blocker, and yes, he does have some concerns with his drops, he is still easily the number one tight end in this draft class for me. I think he does so many things at an elite level, and his skill set translates so perfectly to really all 32 teams in the league. Loveland graded out as a top 20 player in the draft class for me. In terms of his scheme fit, we have hinted at it throughout the video, but he is the perfect receiving tight end. You can play him almost as a big slot if you need to. In fact, he has split his time as both an inline tight end and in the slot so far for Michigan, playing almost 50% of his snaps at each of those spots. But with his route running abilities, his speed in the open field, I think you can find a lot of really unique ways to get him involved in the offense, whether that is in line or in the slot, and you can maximize his receiving upside. I think he's an extremely versatile piece to move around your offense, but I do think he is a prototypical receiving tight end. My player comparison for Colston Loveland is Buffalo Bills tight end Dalton Kincaid. Both of them have a very similar build and are elite receiving weapons. I think Loveland is a better blocker as a whole, but they both have great speed in the open field, are good route runners and separators, and at times feels like an extra wide receiver for the offense. I loved Kincaid when he was coming out of Utah, and I'm a huge fan of what Loveland does. Their tape is eerily similar, and I think they have a very similar skill set as a whole. Colston Loveland is the perfect receiving tight end. He has fantastic quickness and smarts, he has great size and length, and he shows upside as a blocker. I think he's a phenomenal player, and ultimately, I believe that Colston Loveland will be a first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.